We are facing a global obesity epidemic, but it's not the one you're immediately thinking of. This epidemic is impacting our cars and planes. It was a major discussion at a conference we hosted in Geelong just this week. I've just come from there, and you can follow that discussion on Twitter from the link behind me. Planes and cars are becoming increasingly overweight, and this has an enormous impact on our environment. The increased weight means that we consume more fuel and it leads to more environmental emissions. And Henry Ford identified this, and he also importantly states that weight doesn't equal strength. This graph shows the increase in weight by vehicle generation, and you can see that the average car has more than doubled in weight since the 1970s. That's been an issue for quite a few of us, actually, when I think about it. This increase in weight is happening because of us. So when you think back to your first car, mine was a Holden Gemini, and the most advanced safety feature in my Holden Gemini were the brakes, which would most often work. The windows, the air conditioning system was to wind down the windows manually. And I had an AM radio. You think of your car now and it has Bluetooth, it has airbags, has really comfortable seats, air conditioning. All of this adds weight to the vehicle. Planes are experiencing the same issue. We're seeing this trend towards the super jumbo, the A380s, which carry 500 passengers. Now, they're incredibly fuel inefficient to fly. So, of course, I'm going to propose a miracle diet, and this solution is gluten-free. You'll be relieved to know it's paleo-free. It has no sugar. It's this material. This is a carbon fibre composite, an incredibly lightweight, high-strength material. And it's made by embedding a carbon fibre, which has really high stiffness and strength, in a polymer matrix. So the result is a material that combines the best of both worlds. You have the stiffness and strength of the fibre and the toughness of the polymer matrix. These materials are going to transform the way that we design our transport. Composite materials are abundant in nature. And the first example you can see there is of nacre, mother of pearl. This is one of nature's most strong, tough materials. The secret to this material is that it consists of calcium carbonate bricks that are held together by a chitin layer, and that chitin is a natural polymer. The other example is of a limpet and the limpet teeth. There was a paper published just last week that states that these limpet teeth are now the strongest material known to man. They're even stronger than spider silk. Limpet teeth consists of mineral nanofibres that are held together again by chitin. So composites are everywhere in nature. And this is where they are in modern society. You'll see the centre picture is an example of where composites are used to lightweight electronic devices. Of course, the Avalon Air Show is being held today, and there's an enormous array of composite materials at the Avalon Air Show. The bridge that you see is the Westgate Bridge, and that links Geelong, where I'm from, to Melbourne. That bridge was recently reinforced by gluing carbon fibre strips to the underside, and that increased load-bearing capacity enabled an extra lane to be opened up on that bridge, which has really freed up traffic. You can see the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. It's an absolutely gorgeous aircraft. It has a carbon fibre composite fuselage, and lightweighting using that material has saved 20% on fuel. It also has larger windows because carbon fibre composites have a great fatigue performance. And I had my first flight on one last year. It was incredible. I spoke to the pilot at the end of the flight, and he flies regularly between London and Toronto, so a long-haul flight. He said he just doesn't get jet lag anymore. You can see a picture of me in a Lamborghini Aventador there. Beautiful car, mostly carbon fibre composite. And then you can see a picture of a car I'm more likely to be able to afford, the BMW i3 City car. It has a carbon fibre chassis. It's an electric vehicle, zero emissions. And by using composite materials, they saved up to 230 kilograms of weight. And that enables the car to drive further on one battery charge. This is how you make carbon fibre composite materials, and 90% of commercial carbon fibre comes from polyacrylonitrile, or PAN. So this is a petroleum-derived material. It's polymerised, spun into a white fibre. That white fibre is heated and stretched in a really controlled manner to give you the final carbon fibre. And then that is then woven into a cloth and bound together with that epoxy resin that I mentioned earlier and cured in a giant autoclave or oven to give you the final composite structure. At Deakin, and in partnership with CSIRO, we're now able to work everywhere along that supply chain. So we can design precursor molecules, we can then polymerise them and make them, we can spin fibre, carbonise them and make composites. About 7 years ago, we started to see some figures about the huge increase in demand for carbon fibre. You'll see that the cost for this material has come down enormously since the 1970s. And as new projects have evolved, the 787 Dreamliner, the Airbus A350, the demand for this material has increased enormously. It's predicted that between 2012 and 2020, the global market for carbon fibre reinforced composites will more than double. It'll go from $14 billion to more than $36 billion globally. $36 billion. That's a lot of money. There's a huge opportunity for Australia to be part of this global industry. So about 7 years ago, we saw the need that there was a need for research in this area. But in addition to that, there was an opportunity for Australia to play a role. This is Deakin's Carbon Nexus. It's a very unique carbon fibre and composite research facility. It was funded by the Victorian State Government and the Australian Federal Government. It houses a very large carbon fibre line, which I'll show you in a minute. And the right-hand side of the building that you can see is actually 125 metres long. The building behind it is a dedicated CSIRO textile research facility. We've had 86 scientists from CSIRO co-locate on campus with us, and that's been a fantastic collaboration and partnership for us. So this facility is the culmination of a decade-long partnership with the Victorian Centre for Advanced Materials Manufacturing, or VCAM. So you'll now see a video of the line, and it consists of a 50-tonne per annum line. The first thing that's going to strike you about this video is that it's incredibly big, and the reason that we had to go to this scale was to do industrially relevant research. Tension is one of the key parameters in this process, and in order to recreate the tension on the fibre that you see in industry, we had to go to this kind of scale. So acrylic fibre or white fibre comes in one end. It's heated and stretched in a really controlled manner. A series of chemical reactions occur that convert the long linear molecules from the acrylic polymer into ladders or chains, and then finally into turbostratic graphitic sheets that impart the final properties to the carbon fibre. So this facility enables us to do industrially relevant research. It enables us to develop new carbon fibre products. And it also acts as an attractor for investment in Australia. We've spoken extensively with industry about their challenges, and the global challenges that they've been very open in sharing with us have provided the framework for our research theme. So the first challenge is low-cost carbon fibre. The cost has come down from $150 per pound in 1970 to $10 per pound today. There's predictions that if we can get that cost down further to $5 per pound, we're going to see widespread adoption of this material in mainstream automotive applications. At Deakin, we're working on improving the energy efficiency of that process that you just saw. And already we've been able to reduce the energy consumption of our line from 822 kilowatts per hour to 277 kilowatts per hour. The second challenge is high-performance carbon fibre. There's been some really interesting studies that show that we're only at 10% of the theoretical tensile properties of carbon fibre, and that's been limited by defects in the fibre and voids. We're doing research with the University of Wollongong to develop nanostructured precursor materials, and we're seeing some really promising results in that space. The other challenge is surface treatment and sizing. The Achilles heel of composite materials is micro-cracking in these materials. Micro-cracks form around the fibre and they join up and form macroscopic cracks that can cause premature failure of the material. We're developing new coatings to improve the bond between the fibre and the matrix. And finally, rapid cure. This has been a challenge for many, many years, and we've seen significant advances in the last decade. It used to take hours and hours to cure a composite part. It now can be done in under an hour. But a Ford comes off the production line in Detroit every 36 seconds. So we need to be able to supply a part every 36 seconds. We've been working with a company called Multimatic. And I have to say, Multimatic are the rock stars of the carbon fibre and composite world. If you have a look at the Ford GT, which was just launched at the Detroit Auto Show, they built the carbon fibre body for that. Together with Multimatic, we've developed a process and we can make a part in almost a minute. We also have a new project with the University of Queensland. And this project involves Australian Spinifex grass. Australian Spinifex grass covers around 27% of the land mass of the country, and it's incredibly hardy and very renewable. One of the secrets to the properties of this grass is that it consists of a nanofibrillated cellulose building block. And in fact, Spinifex is the symbol of resilience to many Indigenous communities in Australia. Darren Martin and his team at UQ have developed a process for extracting this building block from Spinifex grass. And at Deakin, with Darren and his team at UQ, we're blending that with polymers to create the next generation of truly green carbon fibre precursors. Because of the secrecy of the industry, the structure of carbon fibre has remained somewhat of a mystery. Now, these are incredibly fine fibres. If you think about it, they're 7 microns in diameter, which is about 1/10 of the diameter of a human hair. And since the 1970s, we've had these cartoon structures of what we think the morphology of the fibre might look like. So I'm now going to reveal to you the actual structure of a real carbon fibre, and this was taken by a high-resolution electron microscope in Deakin just last week. Here it is. It's beautiful. You can clearly see the turbostratic structure. You can see some grey amorphous regions. And if you have a look, you can see some small dots on some of the edges, and they are actually carbon atoms. So what this does for us is it enables us to look at the next, how we can develop the next generation carbon fibre. I started at Deakin 14 years ago, almost this week, and my first lab was in a disused basement. I had to sweep out the leaves before I did any experiments. But through a partnership with Quickstep and VCAM, we've been able to grow our research. Quickstep is an Australian company that has a process for making composites really, really quickly. So this is where we both are today. Quickstep have a latest generation of their technology, fully automated robot to pick and place carbon fibre and cure parts really quickly. And this is where our team is today. We've got over 30 scientists who are passionate about their research, and that photo was taken at the opening of our facility last year. Geelong is the town in which I grew up, and we've been hit by a number of setbacks in terms of our manufacturing sector, but there's some good news. This is a brand new $25 million factory that has been built on campus, and it's co-located right next to us at Carbon Nexus. This factory is for a company called Carbon Revolution that make the world's first one-piece carbon fibre wheels. They are exporting globally. In addition to that, Quickstep this year have announced that they will establish their automotive division on campus with us at Deakin. And they'll be in production later this year. And we've also been talking to a company called Nanocarbon, and we're trying to entice them to join us on campus. They want to set up a graphene factory in Australia. So we're increasingly developing a carbon cluster at Deakin University's campus. Henry Ford identified the need to lightweight cars more than 100 years ago, and it's only just now that we're getting around to doing it. I really hope that we'll look back on this decade as the moment in time in which we created Australia's carbon future. Thank you.